If you came from the reel grinding video, we're gonna grind a bed knife now. If you came from somewhere else, hopefully we don't mess this up. But we're gonna put this in the bed knife grinder, and first we're going to gauge off our pivot bolts. So these are precision bolts that I purchased that screw in here. We'll gauge off of them to make sure our carriage is parallel to the pivot bolts, and we'll grind our front face. Then we're gonna flip the bed knife up and grind our top face, and we'll also gauge off the pivot bolts on both sides before we grind our top face. Let's get to it. So I'm gonna mount the bed knife on, these are electromagnets, and there's a switch to turn those on. I'll set the bed knife on those magnets. I have my flags lined up where they're straight ahead, and I put a little pressure on the center of my bed knife to take any slop out of these flags. And then I turn on the electromagnet switch, turn my flags down, and then my magnets are energized and they're holding this here nice and firm. So I have a little different setup, and there's been enough talk in the industry about measuring to the pivot bolts and grinding parallel to the pivot bolts, and I agree with that. And I wanted to be able to do that, and I was talking to J.R. Wilson at Noyak Golf Club up on Long Island. He had a Foley grinder, and he wanted to do the same thing. And he says, I got an idea, I'm gonna make it, and I'm gonna send it to you, and you try it out. And I've been using it for the last 2 years, and it works great. And I've heard through the grapevine that Foley may be working on something similar to this. So we'll see when that comes out. But for now, I've been doing it this way. All it is, a piece of angle aluminum, like 3/4 inch angle aluminum, and probably a 1 inch aluminum square tubing with an Allen screw in it. It's actually the same size Allen screw to tighten this up as it is to adjust degrees on the grinder. So I have it set here. This is a digital readout. You get these on Amazon, they're dirt cheap. I push it out till it touches the bed knife. I'm gonna turn it on. I put just super light pressure against it, and I zero my gauge. I pull the gauge back and just check my repeatability to make sure it's staying zero, and I got a good zero. And I'll traverse to the other side and measure to this pivot bolt. And currently I'm off 4 thousandths, and I'm 4 thousandths this way. So they adjust on the right side. So I'm gonna make an adjustment, and since it's -4 here, I'll probably go to +2, something like that in my adjustment. It's usually 1.5 times will get you in the ballpark. That's 1.5 thousandths. So we're gonna go back to the left side and see how close we are. Now we're 1 thousandths on this side, so we're within 0.5 thousandths. So I'm not going to go any closer than that. That's plenty close for what we're doing here. And at this point, I'll just turn this off. I'll pull it back out of the way. Then I'm going to touch off with my grinding stone and see which side, is making contact first. And it sounds pretty, maybe a little more in the middle. Yeah. So anyway, I got lock contact all the way across. So I'm gonna lock my carriage down to the traverse, close my door, I'll turn my coolant on, and put on my safety glasses. I don't know. Do you wear safety glasses? I know we should. It's been a struggle my whole career. And I wear safety glasses when I'm gonna be around sparks, but I know I should wear them all the time, but I don't. Does that make me a bad person? Let me know in the comments.
12 seconds later.
Yes, I know, I can't wait. I can't wait for those comments. And then I'm manually gonna traverse across the bed knife and just see where it's contacting. And that contact looks pretty, you know, that's pretty good. So I'm happy to start there. I'm gonna lock the carriage and I'm gonna run a program 1. And the programs are right here. So program 1 removes 4/1000ths of an inch. Program 2 is 8/1000ths, 3 is 12, and 4 is 16/1000ths. And they're not changeable. Normally I run a program 1, it makes 4 passes and then an in feed and then 7 more passes. And I will manually in feed if I need to, because normally I'm at the table working on a reel, taking one apart, getting another one ready to go, whatever it might be. And I'll just hit the in feed button. So we got our front face ground. Now we're going to rotate the bed knife up and grind the top face, and we'll use the same gauging procedure with our digital readout. I already have my front face angle set, so this will come up, it's going to stop on 8 degrees, and that's where I want to grind this bed knife. So now I'm going to gauge off the pivot bolts again. This part here is a little tricky because we got to loosen this up, raise it up till it hits the pivot bolt, and then let it back down to go to the other side. So gauge is zeroed there. Now I'm going to let it down, move it to the other side. So 5/1000ths positive. So I need to come towards me. Since it pivots on the left side, when we make a movement over here on the right, it's also moving the left. That's why we go about 1.5 times. So we're -4. Well, we're -5. 0 again. Back down. To the right hand side, back up. Oh, okay. -1. So I'm going this way still. And I'm just gonna go the 1/1000ths. And I'm gonna call it good. Get us a little touch off here. I'm gonna close the hood, turn the coolant on, turn on my grinding stone, just run across manually just to see where we're at here. Lock my carriage down. I'm gonna run program 1 again. I usually have my traverse set on about 20 feet per minute when I'm grinding bed knife, so it just seems to be what I like. I know everybody's a little bit different on that, but that's where I run at. Yeah, the lead in, we grind that in the bed knife. So if the bed knife was to run over something that's kind of in the ground and the bed knife flexes up, it gives the reel blade, because this is on the leading edge side, an area to start into the bed knife and to keep the the reel blade from banging straight into the bed knife and something breaking. Got about a 30-second. All right, I think we're ready to take it out and see if it cuts. So turn off coolant, turn off my grinding stone, raise the hood up, rotate the bed knife down. I usually spin the motor backwards just to back that out so it's ready for the next time. And I run it all the way down. Turn my magnet off. I turn it like that, drain a little water off. And then I'm just doing a visual inspection to see if we got all of it. This was a used bed knife, and this will be the last time that we grind it. We got down into the valley grinding it, but it should still cut fine. We got a nice edge on there. You know, when you're grinding the front face, the burr comes down here, and when you're grinding the top face, the burr comes out, and that can kind of give you a false cut. So, good idea to knock that burr off. And now we're ready to put the bed knife back on the reel. The nylon washer always goes to the aluminum. And like I was saying in the reel video, there's a nylon and a steel. The steel goes, on the older style, the steel goes towards the bed bar and the nylon goes towards the aluminum. On the newer style, you just have the nylon in here. So I just slide those in between the side plate and the bed bar, and then just get it started by hand. We'll do the same thing on this side. Use my 1/4 inch ratchet. Once you run those in, you want the bolt to bottom out. This nut here is a jam nut, and you want to be able to move these washers. So if you over torque the jam nut, it bows the bed knife in the middle, bows it up, so you'll be cutting in the middle and not cutting on the edges. So we got our bed knife back in the cutting unit. We got our pivot bolts tightened down, our jam nuts adjusted. Next step will be tighten these nuts up. And per the Toro manual, you just tighten this until the spring's compressed. I do it on both sides because I'm using a ratchet and wrench. I flip the wrench over. I start here and I'm going 1/2 turn. So it's really easy to measure. Do the same thing on this side. So now those are adjusted properly. The next thing I'm gonna do is bring my reel, or I could bring my bed knife up to the reel. And I'm gonna do that with a 2/1000 filler gauge. I got a T-handle with a 16mm. I really like this because it's quick. I'm just visually by eye closing the gap here because I had it backed off so far. You know, I don't want to go way more on one side than the other. I can spin the reel a little bit too. I'm getting close on the trailing edge, maybe. So now I got some contact. I'm gonna back off the trailing side just a little bit. I usually set it somewhere, the reel blade contacting the bed knife at the first screw hole. I don't know if it matters, but this is where I do it. Right now, that is really tight. So I can't really get my filler gauge in there. I'm gonna back it off another click, maybe 2. So I backed it off 2 clicks. Now my filler gauge passes, little friction on it. I'm gonna do the same thing. So no friction there. There's 2 clicks, 3 clicks, 4 clicks. And I'm getting good friction there. I'm probably a little tight here. So just gonna double check. Yep, too tight on that side. So back it off, maybe 2 clicks. Still a little snug. 2 more clicks. I like that. Going back to this side. Yep, I like that. And this is what I've learned over the years. I've been doing this a long time, and I thought I'm as good as anybody in the business at cutting paper. It's our favorite thing to do. I've been doing this for 28 years, cutting paper. And I thought, I can cut paper better than anybody. And I was talking to John Patterson, and he said he uses a filler gauge. And he said, give it a try. And he's been doing this a lot longer than I have. Maybe not a lot longer, but quite a bit longer. And so I took his advice and I said, let me try that. And I kind of did a test. So I set one up with paper, like I always had. And you know, it cut fine, all those things. And then I checked it with a filler gauge, and the filler gauge, you know, was tied in on one side, loose on the other side. And I'm like, what's happening here? You know, I thought I was better than that, but I'm not. So you can't go wrong with the filler gauge. And the filler gauge isn't just for beginners. It's for experienced people that's been doing this a long time. So I just reeled a bed knife, 2/1000. Then I'm going to give each adjuster 3 clicks tighter. So 1, 2, 3 on that side. 1, 2, 3. I also learned this from John Patterson. He was doing a tournament. He had Toro equipment at the time, and the Toro engineers were down, and they said, you need to adjust these reels a little bit tighter. And this is what they come up with. So 2/1000 filler gauge, 3 clicks. Each click is 7/10,000 of an inch. So you're just past contact if you're using a 2/1000 filler gauge, if that makes sense. So now, it's the question we all been waiting for. Is this thing gonna cut? Oh, like butter. I don't care how old I get, I just really enjoy cutting paper. Just love it. And here's another pet peeve of mine, I got plenty, is when we're cutting these strips of paper, we only need to stick in a little bit and see if it cuts. I see people, and I have people work in this shop sometimes, that wants to stick in 3 inches. And it's like, we don't need that out on the golf course. Give me a break, guys. Just need a little piece. Until next time, see you, bye.